For decades, Magic Johnson has been one of the most recognizable names in basketball. But before the championships, before the business empire, before the fame, there was simply a young kid from Michigan who loved basketball. He was tall, creative, confident, and he saw the game differently. While other players looked for the next move, Magic seemed to see 3 moves ahead. He didn't just play basketball, he transformed it. He made passing feel like entertainment. He made teamwork feel like art. And when he arrived in the NBA, the league would never look quite the same again. But Magic Johnson's greatest challenge wouldn't come from a basketball court. It would come in a doctor's office. And suddenly, the man who seemed to have everything had to face a future he could no longer control. This is the story of Magic Johnson, the basketball superstar, the entrepreneur, the survivor, and the man who turned one of the most frightening moments of his life into a second act nobody expected. The kid who saw the game differently, Evan Magic Johnson Jr., was born in Lansing, Michigan in 1959. Basketball became part of his identity early. He was already developing a reputation as a gifted player while still in high school. His nickname, Magic, reflected the extraordinary things he could do on the court. But there was something else that separated him from other young players. He understood people. He understood spacing. He understood timing. And most importantly, he understood the value of making everyone around him better. That quality would eventually define his career. The night Magic arrived at Michigan State University, Magic became a national sensation. His biggest moment came in the 1979 NCAA championship game. Michigan State faced Indiana State. On the other side was another future basketball legend, Larry Bird. The rivalry between Magic Johnson and Larry Bird would eventually become one of the defining stories of the NBA. But before the NBA, there was that college championship Magic won, and suddenly, professional basketball was waiting. The Los Angeles Lakers selected him with the first overall pick in the 1979 NBA draft. He was 20 years old, and the pressure was enormous. But Magic didn't seem intimidated, he seemed ready. The Lakers' Showtime era Magic Johnson immediately changed the Los Angeles Lakers. He was a point guard unlike almost anyone the NBA had seen. At 6'9", he was enormous for the position, but he could handle the ball, he could pass, he could rebound, he could run an offense, and he could turn an ordinary possession into a moment people remembered. The Lakers were entering a new era, Showtime, fast breaks, spectacular passes, packed arenas, Hollywood celebrities sitting courtside. And at the center of it all, Magic Johnson. He wasn't simply helping the Lakers win. He was helping make the NBA a global entertainment phenomenon. The rivalry that saved basketball, but Magic's story cannot be told without Larry Bird. The two represented different basketball cultures. Magic was the charismatic Lakers superstar. Bird was the intensely competitive Boston Celtics legend. Los Angeles versus Boston. West Coast versus East Coast. Showtime versus Celtics basketball. Their rivalry captured the imagination of millions. And strangely, it also helped bring them closer together. They competed fiercely on the court, but over time, Magic and Bird developed a friendship that became one of the most celebrated relationships in sports. Their rivalry helped define an era, and Magic became one of the central figures in the NBA's transformation. The championships. Magic Johnson won 5 NBA championships with the Lakers. He won 3 NBA Most Valuable Player awards. He was selected to numerous All-Star teams, and he became one of the most influential players of his generation. But statistics don't fully explain Magic. His greatest gift was the ability to make basketball feel bigger than himself. He could score, but he preferred creating opportunities. He could dominate, but he often made his teammates feel like stars. He understood that the most powerful player on the court wasn't always the one taking the final shot. Sometimes, it was the person who created it. Then everything changed in 1991. Magic Johnson's life changed forever. At the height of his career, he announced that he had tested positive for HIV. The announcement shocked the sports world. Magic was only 32 years old. He was a global superstar, a champion, a husband, a father, and suddenly his health had become the biggest story in the world. At the time, HIV was surrounded by fear, misinformation, and stigma. Many people didn't understand the disease. Others were terrified of it. Magic's announcement forced millions of people to confront something they barely understood. The basketball player suddenly became an educator. Leaving the court, Magic announced his retirement from the NBA. For many fans, it felt like the end of an era. The Lakers had lost their leader. The NBA had lost one of its biggest stars. But Magic's story was changing. He wasn't finished. Not even close. He returned to the NBA briefly during the 1992 All-Star Game and was named MVP. He also participated in the 1992 United States Olympic Dream Team. And once again, Magic Johnson found himself at the center of basketball history. But his greatest work was now happening away from the court. Turning fear into purpose, Magic Johnson became an important public advocate for HIV awareness and education. He used his enormous platform to challenge misconceptions. He showed the world that an HIV diagnosis did not mean a person's life was automatically over, and he kept working, kept speaking, kept building. That decision changed the meaning of his legacy. Magic was no longer simply a basketball player. He had become something much larger. The second career then came another transformation: business. Magic Johnson began building a major business career. He invested in entertainment, food service, real estate, and other industries. He became an entrepreneur with a remarkable ability to recognize opportunities in underserved communities, the same skill that had made him successful on a basketball court. Seeing opportunities before other people now became part of his business strategy. The point guard had become a businessman, and the transition was surprisingly natural. Basketball had taught Magic how to read a court. Business taught him how to read a market. Returning to the Lakers, Magic's relationship with basketball never truly ended. He returned to the Los Angeles Lakers in an executive role decades after becoming a superstar. Once again, he was connected to the organization that had defined so much of his life. The role was different, the responsibilities were different, but the connection remained. Magic was no longer the player running the fast break. He was now part of the organization, helping shape its future, the man beyond the statistics. Magic Johnson's story is sometimes reduced to championships, 5 NBA titles, 3 MVP awards, Olympic gold, Hall of Fame recognition. But the numbers only tell part of the story. The more important question is what happened after the numbers stopped growing. Magic was forced to confront uncertainty at an age when most athletes are still focused entirely on competition. He could have disappeared. He could have allowed fear to define him. Instead, he reinvented himself. He became an advocate, an entrepreneur, a businessman, a philanthropist, and a symbol of resilience. The legacy more than 4 decades after entering the NBA, Magic Johnson remains one of basketball's most influential figures. His rivalry with Larry Bird helped define an era. His style helped popularize a faster, more entertaining form of basketball. His leadership helped build the Lakers into one of the most recognizable franchises in sports. And his public response to HIV changed the conversation surrounding the disease for millions of people. His legacy exists both on and off the court. That may be what makes his story so powerful. The greatest chapter of his life didn't necessarily happen when he was winning championships. It happened when the future suddenly looked uncertain, and he decided to keep moving forward. The final whistle. For decades, Magic Johnson made impossible passes look easy. He could see possibilities other players couldn't see, but life eventually gave him a challenge that couldn't be solved with a basketball. There was no teammate to pass to, no final shot, no scoreboard, only uncertainty. And yet, Magic kept moving. He built another career, another identity, another legacy. The boy from Michigan became an NBA champion. The champion became a global icon. The icon became an advocate, and the athlete became an entrepreneur. His career proves that sometimes the biggest comeback isn't returning to the court. Sometimes it's discovering who you are after the game changes. Magic Johnson's story isn't simply about basketball. It's about reinvention. It's about using fear as motivation instead of allowing it to become a prison. And it's about understanding that one chapter ending doesn't mean the story is over. The basketball career ended. The legend didn't. The spotlight changed. The mission changed. The man changed. But Magic Johnson kept moving forward because the greatest victory of his life may not have been winning 5 NBA championships. It may have been refusing to let one diagnosis, one moment, or one chapter define the rest of his story. And after everything, Magic Johnson is still doing what he has always done. Looking ahead, seeing possibilities, and finding the next move before everyone else.